It was the evening before Halloween, and all the engines were guaranteed around ready and eager to start their annual tradition of telling ghost stories. The firelighter came to set the mood, and soon the yard was showing a warm orange glow, creating an atmosphere ripe for spooky tales. The engines took turns telling ghost stories as the moon rose over, each trying to hold out the last. They were all enjoying themselves, and morally, even the big engines, who normally they didn't have much or fantasize for silly stories, blame and laugh, as Thomas and Percy admitted at ghost hunting an old mansion. Finally, was Henry's turn to tell the story. He listened for a moment and constantly looked over the Gordon and Edward, who appeared caution at first, but but no Henry on. Tell it, whispered Gordon. Go it and hurt. I don't know if it is true, we whispered back. He whispered back. It's up to you, Henry. It's scary, Edward replied, quietly. Are you going to tell the story or not? Said James. The other engines laughed, except for Henry, who looked a little unusual. Come on, Thomas and Percy said together. Well, all right. Here it goes. And so Henry began. Many years ago, there was an engine who worked on a faraway railroad. He never given a name. I should say, never lived long enough to be given a name. Henry paused impressively. You see, he continued, all engines when and are built are friendly and hard working, but once in a while engines come out bad. And I'm sorry to say that this engine came out very bad indeed. No one knows who came to build or what led him to the things he did, but he left path of destruction that haunts his controller to this very day. Thomas and Percy looked wide-eyed to each other. The engine thought himself to be primary engine from a famous liner, but he was actually an experimental engine using only parts of other steam engines. The parts didn't fit together very well and made him very mean, apparently, and somewhat inhibited. He was painted blue, but he probably should paint it black. It was not uncommon for the engine to insult the other engines and result in sabotage, such as bumping into him without warning and explaining trains over small petty squalls. He was also easy to anger and had the fits of rage talking it out on the trucks, and sometimes engines smaller than he was. One day, he buffeted up to one of these smaller engines and pushed him into the edge of the turntable well, threatening him to knock him off. He didn't care to his very him. Edward suddenly gulped, and if a bad memory flashed across his mind. The engines were furious and confronted on him about it. And stop bullying in smaller engines than you, they say. But he wouldn't listen. He continued to play his spiteful tricks. The threat that his big engines ever told to the controller about are making them pay. The two engines that slowly fed of God every early one morning, I met the controller at the station. They told her all about what the engine had done, but the controller's hands were tied since the engine was on low. I can't say, but in report, the engine's company said, I can't say, but I put in the report to the engine's company, said Henry meekly, the fictional controller. What happened then? Asked Toby. Well, one of these big engines left to take the train, and the other remain in the station, trying to desperately to play their case. If it say the bad engine was passing through a yard, and the time he saw the big engine nearly to say he was a suspicious he confronted the big engine into the yard.
I told you not to tell anyone. You'll get yours.
The big engine just laughed, believing the engine only to be bluffing. Henry suddenly paused. Edward, Gordon, and Henry all looked to each other. Gordon had an emotion of the eyes and clearly. Henry to keep going. But, can we say, here was mostly Alfred. Not blushing in the next day, the engine was pulling an express X train through the junction when suddenly, without warning, another engine came into the back of his coaches. Then, and what awful noise as wood and metal stone spurned everywhere, but black and worse. Wreck survives. The scream of passengers inside those coaches became louder and louder and louder. The other engines were aglom to Henry. They didn't dare make a sound. The bad engine, knowing the big engine was just the line of internally, missing a signal and pulling into the back of the express train to get even the sight. It was awful. The three-wheel coaches were smashed to smithereens, and everyone inside of those coaches, they perished. The big engine screamed, "You killed my passengers! You killed my passengers!" But the engine didn't care. He just laughed. The controller seeing the mess and sent the engine for scrap. If the controller had the only listened to the big engines, the lives on the coaches might been saved, so that as moral of the story, stand it up to evil, and until the very end of the evil might just turn you into a ghost. Henry had gave a loud whistle, making everyone jump. "Whoa, Henry!" laughed James. "That was a twisted story." "It might have to keep the lights on tonight," said Percy, and everyone laughing. Soon the engines began to leave in the eye to get a good night rest. Gordon and Edward and Henry, however, staying behind. As soon the other engines were out of a shot, Henry sighed, looked very ill to Gordon, smiling sympathetically. "A fine performance, Henry, though I know that's not an easy story for you to tell. Do you think they knew who was talking about?" said Edward. "The only one who might have known was Thomas, but he was too young at the time to remember," added Gordon. You think that 9462 was actually scrapped?" asked Henry. But Gordon and Edward didn't answer. Either way, the three looked up to the moon, fearing inserted, but hopeful that the bad engine would come back to haunt again.